Hello everyone, welcome to Scorched Earth Toys at anymoon.com's transformation guide for the 1/15 scale Mega House ride armors. I'll be using Yellow's ride armor for this demonstration because my Stick and Ray ride armors fall apart too many times and it'd be way too frustrating. I'm going to do this transformation in 3 steps. Step 1 will be parts removal, Step 2 will be transformation, and Step 3 will be readhering those parts I've removed. So without any further ado, let's get into it. If you had the kickstand on the toy, you would remove it and put it in your tray right now. Obviously, you're not going to need the kickstand in armor mode, but you do have a lot of parts to remove right off the get-go. You can start with the handles. These parts get removed and do not come back onto the toy. I'll make a couple little piles here. You can then do the shoulder armors. Those obviously will go back onto the toy. You could do the front gauntlets here. Those are going to go back on later. You can do the hip armors. Obviously they go back on later. This toy gets a little spindly at this point. Alright, now you can bring back the cowl in the front and remove the front fork. I did break a toy once doing this, so you want to be a little careful. Alright, so that does it for the bike and the parts removal. This obviously is not going back on the toy. Alright, so for the rider figure, you have to pop his head off. Alright, so now let's start transforming things. Okay, with the parts removed, the transformation is pretty straightforward and easy. Now, I mentioned earlier that my Ray and Stick figures were a little too fiddly. That's because these side pieces are just pinched on. They're pinched on much better on later toys. But they are also what holds some swinging mechanisms in place. If they pop off, everything falls apart on you. And on the Stick and Ray versions, that does happen pretty frequently. So start by moving these, what will be rib guards, down. And then this gives you a little bit of access to the motor. You should be aware that these rib guards can pop off pretty easily, which was one of the many minor flaws to the design here. And so there's many minor ones, which kind of adds up to less fun than if there was one big one. All right, so I'm pushing the motor up, which kind of gives you the ability to then pop up this trap door, which then lets you fold up the back of the bike and peg into that trap door. And then once that's there, you can push the motor all the way up and it sinks in so it's flat up against the back there. You can now bring what will be the crotch area down a little bit and swing these swing bars down. Okay, so things are starting to take shape. At this point, I would recommend pulling apart the chest, what will be the chest. Now they clip a little bit into that wind visor, so once you pull them apart, you free them to pull them forward. Again, another common issue you will have is these things sliding off their little hook. And here we go. Get those in place and they should fit somewhat snugly. And then we can bring up our wheels. Now the wheels have a little peg here that fits into a little slot there. And it's not the most secure connection, so these will have a tendency to fall downward. Once that's done, you can open up the little booster fins if you haven't accidentally done it with your fingers while transforming the toy. And finally, we can pull out the shoulder pegs. This is where the armor attaches for the shoulder. And you are now ready to start reassembling the toy. In many respects, this toy, the armor, sort of just drapes over the rider figure. The rider figure on its back has a little upside down triangle indent. As you can see, that indent is teeny tiny. The motor inside the armor has a little peg that's the same as that triangle, but it's not thick enough to actually support anything, so it's a little silly. So instead, you just kind of drape the armor over the rider. There's no peg in the crotch to fit to the crotch of the rider's armor. So again, it's just kind of dress up. It's just sitting in front of it, not supporting anything. So it's a little awkward at this point. The only thing that really pegs in are these rib guards. And the rib guards, I've already shown you, fall off really easily. So that's a little sad. So here I'm bringing the rib guards back, so they're going to pinch the rider figure. And they've got a little peg in them that fits into a little slot in the rider's lower rib area. And so you definitely want to pinch where these rib guards come together several times as you apply them, so they don't fall out and have the whole thing fall off on you. The knee guards can pop off pretty easily, as I've just demonstrated accidentally. Part of the transformation gimmick, you need to pull the legs down and pull the feet forward. So he gets bigger feet somehow when he transforms. I guess with all the other things going on, that's not something we should be concerned with. Alright, so we're pretty close at this point. And we can put the head back on the figure. Now, as you can see, the chest rides up pretty high on the armor. But it has a cavity for the helmet. So a little awkward, but what are you going to do? The hip armors have a little peg within them that slides forward and then connects to a hole in the rider's armor. Okay, again, there's nothing going on with the bottom of the armor connecting back to the rider again. The gauntlets fit on pretty easily. There's a little hole in the rider's suit, and this just pegs right in with that peg right there. If you're going to pull out the blades, it's probably best to do it before you put them on if you've got Yellow's figure. And then the armor, the shoulder armors, again, a little slot, you've pulled out that peg. This is a little harder to do on Yellow's, since Yellow had the larger wheels installed on his bike. I'm not going to sweat the wheels right now. But because the larger wheels are there, they pinch up right against those shoulder armors. So here we have the shoulder armor installed. Get the wheel back in place. And you can see not a whole lot of room there anymore. On the Stick and Ray toys, they had smaller diameter wheels, and there's a little bit more space. But obviously it looks a little sillier in motorcycle mode. Alright, so here you have your fully transformed Mega House Ride Armor toy. Obviously he's going to be a little heavy towards the back, but you should be able to pose them without the stand, although it's not particularly easy. Alright, visit anymoon.com to see my full review. Thanks for viewing.